Call to order, work session, Bradley County Commission, November the 14th, 2022. The invocation, I don't believe our scheduled pastor is here, will be led by Commissioner Winters, and the pledge will be led by Commissioner Mason. Stand, please.
Before we pray, I'd like to, personal privilege that we take a moment of silence. 3 young men that just had yesterday from a field trip, University of Virginia. Got the news as I drove in. Parents, their sons off to college, take him home and have his reward. Let's take a moment. Heavenly Father, as parents are grieving today and school is grieving today, administrators, law enforcement, grieving, University of Virginia, we remember them today. We know that you're grieving the evil that looks good. We ask your blessing on those families that are grieving, unbeknownst to them. Sons, you said that your goodness and mercy follow us all of the days of our life. Thank you for this community where there is goodness and mercy, kindness abroad. Praise you. Ask that you bless this meeting. We would do the things that you would have us do, but also the meaningful. In Christ's name.
Amen. Commissioner Mason.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all.
We'll now have the report from the county mayor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon, everyone. I do have a couple of things for you today, so bear with me. First of all, our roof project on the annex finally began last week, and of course, then with any roof project comes rain, and more rain scheduled for tomorrow, so hopefully they'll be back in the next few days, and that project will finally happen. That's something that was budgeted in last year's budget. I know many of you, or most all of you, have already heard the rumor mill in this town's wonderful, but out of respect, I always make my announcements to the commission first, so I'm going to do that today, even though you already know. Some changes at the ambulance and fire department. Some of you may recall a few years ago we took the fire chief position and the ambulance director position and combined it into one position and called it emergency services director. It's become obvious that more time and attention is needed in the individual departments, so we're changing it back. Effective tomorrow, Sean Fairbanks will continue on as the fire chief of the Bradley County Fire and Rescue, but Mike Guerin, who is here today, the current operations manager, is being promoted to serve as the director of Bradley County EMS. Most of you have met and seen Mike over the last few months, but he's got a pretty neat background. He served as a firefighter, a police officer, a member of the drug task force, a deputy sheriff, served at Bradley Memorial Hospital in the ER for many years. He was an EMT before becoming a paramedic and serving with the Hamilton County EMS for a few years. And he served Bradley County as our operations manager since July of last year. So beginning tomorrow, Mike is the new EMS director, and if you'd like to say something, Mike, you don't have to, but if you'd like to speak to the commission, you're welcome to at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, commissioners. I take this appointment, it's an honor, but most importantly, I'm very humbled by the opportunity to be able to continue to serve the citizens of Bradley County. My focus doesn't change, it just becomes sharper. I feel like that I have worked hard over the last year and so many months, I need to work harder now. I want to thank Chief Fairbanks for his many years of service to Bradley County EMS. I thank him for the opportunity he gave me to come and serve as operations manager. Most of all, I thank God. God called me to be a public servant when I was a young man. And as soon as I graduated high school, I became a member of the fire department. And I've been, I won't say how long ago that's been, but I've been involved in public service ever since. We face many challenges. I can't imagine a more difficult time to be an EMS director, sheriff, police chief, or fire chief in this current state that our country's in. So I need your help and your prayers. I've been fighting constantly with our state, and that is where you guys can help me a tremendous amount. Is a lot of EMS's issues originate at state level. We have our issues locally, just like everyone else, but there needs to be some changes to emergency services at the state level. I'm not talking about the EMS board. I'm talking about the political aspect. There's a lot of things that go on as far as our testing. Lowest amount of students in the history of our profession are going to school to be EMTs and paramedics. I think there are several different reasons for that, mostly monetary reasons. It costs a lot of money to go to school, and we're one of the only professions that the student has to have all their credentials before we can employ them. They're working toward different ways for EMS to teach their own students and things, but that takes money that we don't have that luxury to spend. But again, I want to thank the mayor for his confidence, and I thank you all for allowing me this privilege to lead the great men and women of Bradley County EMS, and it is absolutely about them, not me. They wear this uniform and they go out and risk their lives along with our other first responders, and I commit to work side by side with each and every agency in this community, as we all have the very same goal, and that's to take care of our citizens of Bradley County. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike. I often say we have a wonderful EMS department, but challenges like others and challenges of employees at this time. I was at a state mayor's meeting last week, and I usually just listen, and the conversation was mostly about the various ambulance services across the state. Every single one of them has the very same issues that we have here in Bradley County, and that's lack of EMTs, lack of paramedics. So they're going to be bringing it more to the attention of the state legislature next year too. I don't know how that can help, but in the meantime, we need to be encouraging. Ran into a young lady the other day who has a desire to be she had questions about her desire to be a EMT or a paramedic, and I encouraged her because it's a good field to go into. There's a demand for them. It pays decent. We need more people to go down that route, and there for a while no one was doing it, and that's one of the reasons it's caused our backlog. That, as well as the recent retirements that we've all had. Okay, moving on to the next subject. A few months ago, this commission approved spending $750,000 or setting aside $750,000 of the ARP sewer bucket for septic tank repairs. In the meantime, we've been having numerous discussions with state and this organization that I'll be introducing in just a minute about how they are graining out their dollars for the purpose. You know, the state has septic grants also, but in our case, it only applies to certain areas of the county. One thing we did learn from the state, of course, with ARP and inflation, it's hard to manage what we can spend on anything or what to expect the cost to be. But anyway, as of now, it looks like the average cost of a septic repair is approximately $8,000. Hey, you can hear me twice. Okay. You got that fixed, Adam, I hope. Okay. We're proposing a grant be made available to any property owner in Bradley County who is experiencing the failure of an existing septic system. And that's key, an existing septic system. This is not for development. This is not for builders when they're putting in septic systems. This is to help the problems that have come to you all many times over the last couple of years of people that are experiencing septic issues. So this grant would be available, what we're proposing would be available to any property owner in Bradley County that's experiencing an existing system issue. We're proposing a 70-30% grant following similar to what the state is doing with theirs. And for example, an $8,000, if $8,000 is the average cost of a repair, this would be split $5,600 county and $2,400 with the property owner. This grant we're proposing would be administered from application to inspection to invoice by the Southeast Tennessee Resource Conservation Development Council. That's the same organization that is doing it for the state in this county as we speak, I think is correct. They will provide the reports to us that we can then use for our ARP reporting. We have to do the reporting to the feds, which anytime you bring up ARP money is where I'm always concerned because very complicated reporting that has to go to the feds. But this organization would provide the reporting information that we would need for those reports. The gentleman is here that I'll ask to speak in just a minute, who is the project manager for the Resource Conservation Development Council, Matt Heath, sitting here on the front row. Will speak to you in just a minute, but I'll go ahead and finish what we're proposing, and then he will have the opportunity to speak and answer questions. We have an agreement tentatively worked out. We'll have to put a contract in place if you all approve it, but anyway, they are proposing to be paid $75,000 for the first year, and this is possibly a 2-year program. For the entire 2 years will be $115,000 for the total 2 years. Going with the amount that's set aside now and paying the admin costs, we would be able to grant out 115 grants to citizens in our community. We are proposing to do this January the 3rd, beginning January the 3rd, and going through the end of next year, December the 31st. So there'd be a 1-year open application period. Now, some of you are going to say, well, we don't know about the 750. That was just a figure you all threw out. But come August, September, October of next year, if we have applications that have used up the amount you've allotted, you've got more money in that bucket, we'll come back to you and ask if you want to look at amending the amount. So we can always increase it at this point. I really think 115 approved applications over the next 12 months will be close to probably what we're needing, but we can always amend more if you need it. This will give a year for the applications to come in. They will take care of checking the applications and doing all of that. You got to understand, we're used to receiving grants. We're not used to granting out money, okay? This will probably be the first time, and that's why we're proposing to use someone like the Tennessee RC&D. But they will, you might say, take the hand of the citizen and walk them through the entire process, getting the permits, making sure they meet all the requirements, first of all, and then walking them through the process. And we'll give them a year to be applying, and then that next year is when it's got to be finished. Like everything else in this time, it takes forever to get anything done, like the roof project, 6 months. So those applications that are approved during calendar year 23 are going to, a lot of them be actually occurring, the work being done in 24. So that would give us the following year to get all of the work done and finish up so we can turn in the reporting by the end of 24. Heath, if you would like, Mr. Heath. Matt Heath is here. with the Tennessee Resource Conservation Development Council. And if you'd like to say a few words, or he's here to answer questions, if anybody has questions for him, they have an application already in place that they use with the state. They will take that, if this is approved by you all next week, they will take that application and revamp it and make it fit Bradley County's criteria, so to speak. So a lot of the stuff's already in place. They've assured us that they can redo the application, have it ready to go January, and start taking applications and everything in January. Would you like to say a few words? If you would, go to the podium. This is Matt Heath, the project manager.
Hello, Commissioners. Thank you for your time today. For those of you not familiar with Southeast Tennessee RC&D, we are a 501c3 nonprofit. Our mission is to serve our communities and protect our area's natural resources. We do everything from agricultural best management practices, septic repair programs, litter cleanup programs. We've done a variety of different conservation work around the service area that we serve. I'll keep this brief. I know that you guys have other business to attend to, so does anyone have any questions to this point? Yes, sir.
I have a question.
Go ahead, sir.
Guess I'm in that area there. Second problem there. Have sewer station. City, if sewer goes by, I think they require you to hook up. But in our location out there, why we have a lot of septic tanks, but the sewer has run at a certain point. And just like my house, I've got sewer right in the front of my house, but I'm on a septic tank. But if a septic tank goes bad, will they be allowed to hook up for sewer, which sewer is about $5,400?
I don't think that's addressed in the criteria we have in place yet, but you all could address it if you want us to say that in lieu of that in those situations. But normally, following the state's guidelines, which we don't have to follow, it is for the septic repairs, not to give you money to hook up to sewer. Although that would be a smart thing to do probably if it's available and you can afford to do it. But again, you're setting the criteria, we're bringing you criteria that we recommend, but we can go with more or less of this criteria. Is that fairly accurate from what you two know about the programs with the state?
That's right.
I don't want to be saying anything wrong here. We're trying to follow those guidelines, but they're mainly talking about rural areas that don't have what you're talking about, so that is an option, but it's not what we're proposing anyway at this point. Does that make sense?
Well, I know I'll get the question.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question. Well, once you approve something and it goes to them to set up the applications, there'll be definite answers to those questions, whether it's in there or not. Right now, I'm telling you that it's not in the proposal, but it could be if you wanted to do it, if the majority of you wanted to do it.
Commissioner Hughes.
Mr. Chairman, I will tell you, after speaking with TDEC about several issues with septic systems, if the sewer runs in front of your house, you are required to tie into the sewer. They don't give an option of repairs.
And along those lines, we're kind of following that. We're not saying you've got to hook on, but if you've got a problem, that is probably the best answer is to go ahead and hook on. But, you know, there are times that could be cost prohibitive. I understand. So we're not ruling it out, but that's why it's not in the proposal.
Commissioner.
Will this be first come, first serve, or how will you decide if 10 of us apply? Who's first and who's second? How do you do that?
Sure. So from what we've agreed upon so far, it would be first come, first served basis. So once these funds are gone, you know, there's no longer any available funding for homeowners.
And that's correct. It will be first come, first served. However, with what I said earlier, you just pulled the number out of the air, and maybe it should have been bigger, or maybe it's too big. But we can always come back because there's still sewer money in the sewer budget that can be used for septic if you all choose.
Thank you.
Commissioner Blake.
Thank you, Mr. I think that answered my question, but I'll just make sure. So you're going to start an application process. You said it's going to take a couple months or like that.
We're planning on it being open all year or until it's
So,
used up, yes.
The year 23, you're just going to take in applications. And
Correct.
as your application comes in and you review it, do you make a decision then? I think that's what Commissioner Winters kind of asked, is you make a decision, a yay or nay, and then in other words, you're not going to, like with HCI, they take all the applications all together, compile them all together, and make one big decision on awarding, but you're going to do it just in time.
From what we've
Yeah.
discussed, it would be, if a landowner comes to us with an application or a quote and we get the application signed, they can go ahead and begin that work as soon as possible.
So if somebody applies in January, you review it in a couple of weeks, and boom, they can get started.
Correct.
Right.
And the reason there, just so you understand, a lot of the ARP problem has been supply chain things. So if we wait and we do them all at once, that's adding to the supply chain problem. But as they have time to make sure you meet the criteria, go ahead and tell you, yeah, I'll get your contractor to get to work on it. And that way, hopefully, it'll be spread out a little bit more. But, yeah, you'll be given the go-ahead as soon
Right.
as they have time to approve
And
it.
I would agree. I mean, you said this is existing properties, right? So somebody who's brand new, they wouldn't qualify for it.
Yes, sir. That's right.
Commissioner Rogers and then Thompson.
With this grant, does it look at all septic tank systems? So you're able to apply if you have a conventional system or a chamber system or field line. It covers everything. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct. At least that's how we've implemented our TDEC grants. Again, it's open up to however the commission would like to go about it.
Commissioner Thompson.
One other question is, sometimes if you have septic tank problems, you don't need a septic tank replacement, you need a repair. And it goes to a minimum sometimes. It's not a $5,000 job, it may be a $2,000 job or a $1,000 job. So would this play in effect at any time?
Yeah, usually on repair jobs, your tank's okay. It's the fill line that has gone bad. It wasn't long enough or didn't have the right soil or whatever the right answer is. And so the costs will vary. The state told us that they're usually anywhere from 4 to 10. That's why I used as an example the average of 8. But there will be some people that may just need an extension to their existing fill line. That's determined by TDEC's inspector. You go through, get your permit process, and they tell you what you got to do. That will still be working the same way. We're not doing that. They will be working with the TDEC guy, like you've dealt with in the past, to get that permit, and that person tells you what you've got to do, and then they approve to make sure they meet all the criteria and tell you that, okay, go ahead and do it. You're covered by the grant. But none of that will change, and make sure that TDEC process, because the state does our inspections, and that will continue on just like it has in the past.
I have a couple of comments. As the mayor has noted, the $750,000 was a figure basically pulled out of the sky. I would anticipate that we would have a need for more. The other issue I have, we're out here in the country. We're not here on Ocoee Street. These people don't have $2,400 necessarily. They go from paycheck to paycheck. So we'll see where we are from there, but we need to look at fully funding these things as a grant if their possibility exists, and that'll be based on volume. It'd be sad if they can't come up with the $2,400, and a lot of them can't, from what I've talked to many of them. And we'll be forming very quickly now an ad hoc committee on this, and we'll get back, and I'd probably need to announce that next week if we could. That's anyone else? Back to you, Mayor.
Any other questions? I mean, there'll be other questions come up. Move as fast or slow as you all choose. We hope to get approval in the very near future so we can start the process in January. And again, start approving them and getting them lined up to start occurring rather than holding people up. If they've got one that meets all the criteria, get to go ahead and start on it as soon as they can, because you're going to have contractor issues, just like a roofer issue. That's going to be the holdup on all of this, and we're telling you that up front. We don't plan on being the holdup. We want to get them approved, but then there's going to be a holdup on getting the actual work done, and that's why we figure it'll take that extra year. The 70-30 is a discussion for you all. That could be argued both ways. I personally don't necessarily like giveaways, 100% giveaways. I think people ought to have skin in the game, so to speak, but that could change whatever amount. We're just throwing it out there as a starting point because we do need to get moving on this.
Mayor Davis, if I may add one thing there, you mentioned having skin in the game with the landowners. I do agree that is a somewhat important thing to take into consideration. I feel like this is a rare case, but there are cases where a contractor will overbid a project, especially when there's federal funds involved. So having that landowner buy-in has two people holding that contractor accountable.
The buy-in's important, but you still can change the percentages. If the majority of you wanted 80-20, okay, that's 100% up to you all.
That sounds good, unless you're that poor family out there that makes $10 an hour supporting a family with a septic problem and you don't have no money. Commissioner Rogers, then Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mayor, this has been an ongoing issue that the previous commission has talked about for the past probably 2 years or so, if not longer. Do we have a current list or an idea of how many failing septic systems that we currently have in Bradley County? Does the building inspector's office or TDEC, or is there a way to get kind of an idea about this? I would assume that if there's failing systems, that the homeowner or some building inspecting office would contact TDEC, so we would have kind of an idea of a possible number that we're looking at, to where we could say 750,000 is enough, or it's not enough, or vice versa.
Well, again, we can play the amount by ear and come back in 6 or 8, 10 months. We've got plenty of time there. Don't let that hold up getting started, so we can start getting these replacements in place. Adam just mentioned, we've been told the 80 number. They feel like that this is more than enough that we can do in 1 year. The 115, because they've mentioned 80 to us before. I don't know that anybody knows how many failing systems are out there, but the state felt like that we were being, I don't know what the word is, but we would have plenty to do that one, to take care of for that 1 year. But again, if he calls up and says, Gary, we've gone through the 115th application, or it might be 113, that's going to vary, and the money is all committed, then we'll come, and it's just September and we still got 4 months of the application time, then we'll come back and say that 750 should have been $1 million. You won't find any other county around using numbers like this for septic repairs. I guarantee you that, because I've talked to all of them, and some of them might do some eventually. They're waiting to see how we do it, but you won't find $1 million be handed out by any other county around. I hate to say that to somebody watching it on TV, but everything we've been told, this is a pretty big number for it.
And Mr. Heath, you made a comment about contractors overbidding jobs and overbidding work. When a natural disaster or a tornado comes through towns or areas, you will see contractors come in from all over the country to come in and do roofing jobs or siding jobs, and people who are not local to Bradley County or to this region. Do you guys at your place, do you guys have an approved or recommended list of contractors or people that you guys recommend for the constituents of Bradley County to look at that? If they say, hey, I don't know who to use or who to go with or whatever, do you have that information that you can provide to citizens who are having these issues?
We sure do. TDEC has a list of approved contractors in Bradley County. Yes, sir.
Commissioner Thompson.
That was one of the questions I was worried about there. The contractors, do y'all have the contractors in mind, or is that something that comes from the community or what?
They'll be required to use one off of the approved list. They could add to that list, I'm not sure, but there will be a list provided. That's the thing about, reason we're recommending using the RC&D is they've done this, so they will take it and they'll walk these people through. They'll have, most of these questions you're asking are what the citizens will be asking, and they'll be able to help them and answer those questions. I think if you all could just think in terms of, are we okay with 750 for now, well, knowing we can come back? What percentage do you want to do, 70-30, 80-20, 60-40? States is more or less 60-40, by the way. Make those decisions so we can start the process, because it is going to be a slow-moving process. That way we start making the money available, and those contractors can get to work rather than having an overload all at once. They can start working on them as soon as they can, with weather permitting. That's why we're kind of pushing it, but take as much time as you want to. But if you would just think on the terms of the big decisions, improve those, then we can turn around and contract with them, and they can get started on it. And the amount and the percentage is the biggies right now. And if you want to use them, we're suggesting it because of their experience in doing it with the state in the past. Any other questions? And it doesn't look like you're going to want to do it next week, and that's perfectly fine, but I would hope you would try to do it 1st of December, because then you've got the holidays coming up, and they need to get on it in order to get those applications out in January.
Commissioner Hughes.
Mayor, what you're asking for now is just approval for this company to step in. It's not setting the criteria, is it? If we approve this.
We would want you to approve them, they're not a company, but them as an organization to be the admin for it, and also the percentage, because they're going to need to know that when they put together the application and so forth. Does that make sense? That's the two main things right now. Are you comfortable with RC&D doing it? And by the way, they have an office in Cleveland. They're not new. They're part of our community. And give some thought to the percentage. If you're thinking differently than 70-30, that's fine. Those two things would need to be in your, we'd need to know that to draw up a resolution to come back then to vote on. And that way we will turn around and contract with them. We've not done that. That's why you see them looking over here some. We've had the discussions, but it's in your hands. We don't know a lot of that black and white at this point.
Commissioner Blake.
Real quick, Mayor, the 115,000, that's gonna come not out of the 750, but come out of that bucket.
Right now, you're overthinking it, Mylan,
Well,
Commissioner. Right now, it would, but again, we can increase the 750.
I mean, we
You
got.
take that out, and you still can do about 115 citizens.
Well, I guess I was saying, the 115 is based off the amount that we're appropriating, or the number of houses. We don't know how many houses. 'Cause you don't know.
It's mainly based on the fact that they're going to do this application process for a year and continue to oversee and admin it for another year.
Right. So
And
if we did increase the amount,
it
their amount
wouldn't,
would go
I
up.
don't think it would change it, no. It's an employee situation that they're in place. But if we stretched it longer than that, which we shouldn't anyway because of ARP rules, but if we stay in that timeline, I think we can increase the 750 to 850, for example, and still be okay.
115.
Any other?
See, it's 750, it's 75 the first year, and then it's a smaller amount the second year. Most of the application process will be done the first year, and then the second year, it's overseeing the projects and inspections and those kinds of things and reporting. So the second year, you see what I'm saying? Yeah, the 115 I think would still be okay as long as we didn't increase the amount a huge
But it
amount.
is coming out of the bucket. I mean, it's a $3 million
It-
bucket, right?
It's coming out of the 750 for now because that's the amount that's approved. I can't do other, but you can come back and change it later if we
Well,
run
I
out of
thi-
money.
I think we should do that. And it's just up for discussion. Is 750 is what's going to go out to the people. The 115 can come out of the bucket, but that's not included in that 750. Just my thoughts. That's all.
Well, then a separate motion, change the 750 if you want to. My point is, we can always address that in 6 months, but if you want to hold it up on that now, that's fine too. 750 will work with the admin. We start moving, and we will gladly come back if we start running out of money before then.
Commissioner Rogers.
Mr. Heath, how many of these projects has your organization done such to this nature?
So here in Bradley County, we are on our second project in the Hiwassee tributaries. It's a Clean Water Act grant that has agricultural BMPs and septic repairs as the main components of it. We've done 2 phases of Conasauga tributaries Clean Water Act grants. Soon to be starting a third, pending the grant reward from TDA. So we have 4 as of right now that I'm aware of, but there's been previous projects before I began with the organization.
And
as well.
to the best of your knowledge, what are the percentages that these other grants use? You know, the mayor's brought us a 70-30 grant. What are, to your best of your knowledge, what are the other percentages that are normally used for a situation like this? Because I think that's one of the big questions that all of us have is how much should, you know, residents have to pay? Should there be buy-in? Should it be 100%? Should it be, you know, so just to the best of your knowledge.
So our standard rate on our Clean Water Act grants is a 60-40, meaning it's 60% federal, 40% land. Now we have done a sliding scale for people who are in real financial need, and I don't know if that's something the commission would want to take into consideration, but it is something that could be done.
I would hate to be the person that determines that poor person's financial need out there in the county and then tell him. Thank you very much. That's all we have on it. Is that it? Before we go into the Commissioner Hughes, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick question, back up on this a little bit. You're planning on setting up an ad hoc committee fairly quick on this, correct?
That's correct, yes.
I think most of these questions can come up in that ad hoc committee and be answered and brought to us with a ready to pass resolution.
Hopefully, if I'm doing my job, we'll have it ready next week.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anyone else? Before we go into the district and committee reports, I'd like to recognize the Director of Schools, Dr. Cash, for being here, and there's a couple of more people that'll be recognized later. Appreciate your coming, and we'll go to Commissioner Rogers first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last week was the November election cycle, and I'd like to say congratulations to former county commissioner of the 7th District, the person that I sit in his seat now, Kevin Raper, on his win last week, and also congratulations to Dan Howe, and also our newly elected Senator Adam Lowe as well. Mr. Chairman, there's another group of people I'd like to say thank you to, and that is the voters. Last week, Bradley County had over 25,000 people vote in the November election. That's about a little over 33% of the registered voters in Bradley County. In comparison, that's about 15,000 more people voted in this election cycle than in the August election cycle. I truly, like probably all of us up here, believe that it's important to cast your vote and use your right to vote for who you want to see represent you. I know there were some down machines and some long lines, but I do appreciate everyone who took their time to vote. There are a lot of people also who work very hard to make sure that our elections in Bradley County operate and run smoothly to where we don't have to wait days or weeks like other states, like we're seeing right now in the national level. And those are the election day poll workers, the people who watch elections, and the people who get out and get people verified during the election day. I'd just like to say thank you to them for their hard work and all their efforts last week. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Ledford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Josh. I didn't have to say all that. I was going to do the same thing. Number one thing, this morning I went out to visit with Tom Collins at the road department. That was a nice visit. Tom's done a whole lot for me so far. Of course, this is only the 10th week being on this commission. Had several issues come through, and those have all been taken care of with the help from Lori and Mr. Bentley, Thomas, and of course Tom Collins. And went to a ribbon cutting down here at Two Brothers. That was nice. And Mike Guerin, I just wanted to mention, I've been at the hospital for quite a while. Mike Guerin, probably, I'm going to guess, in the 80s when he started there at the hospital. He was the first ward clerk that wasn't a female. So that tells you how long I've known Mike. I've known Mike for a long, long time. About, I guess, a month ago when all this EMS stuff was going on, I would go down through the ER when I would be down there stalking and ask the girls at the desk how things were going, with the time clocks and all. And one thing that kind of caught my eye, I wish Mike was still here, Mike Guerin would come into the hospital for the last, probably a couple weeks ago, he would come in every day to get a report. So that was good that Mike come up to solve this problem, which, Mayor, you said it's getting better. So that's what we're working on up there to get that better. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Chairman. The Sheriff's TDOT litter grant for this month of October, 527 county road miles, 220 state road miles, and 75 city road miles for a total of 24,782 pounds of litter for the month of October. And as always, I want to thank Thomas Bell and Missy Harrison for working so hard with me to make Bradley County beautiful, and that's all I have. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Slater.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have nothing today.
Commissioner Goins.
Got a call from a guy about a tree that's fallen over at Fort Hill Cemetery, but I've got Tom Collins on it. He's gonna take it down, small tree. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Thompson.
Land and building meeting next week at 11 o'clock. That's an hour before the meeting.
Thank you. Commissioner Gilbert.
Went to a veterans celebration the other day where they awarded our mayor award, and man, it was really neat to watch the kids go up and present the colors, and it was just nice to be there with all the veterans. I just want to thank all the veterans for what you do for us. Mr. Cry, I know you're a veteran. Mr. Howard, you're a veteran. And anybody out there that's a veteran, thank you for what you do. I would like to call Danny Cogden up if I could.
Please.
I didn't know that Cleveland has a orchestra, and Mr. Cogden will explain. He knows a lot more about it than I do.
Thank you, Commissioner Gilbert. Thank you to the commission for giving me this opportunity to talk to you. And first thing I want to do is, I'm not asking for anything. I want you to know that. We're going to try and give back to our community through our Cleveland Pops, which is our community concert band, and through the community orchestra, or the Cleveland Orchestra of Tennessee. First group I want to say thank you to is to the Bradley County Schools, because they allow us to rehearse at Lake Forest, and we give our performances at Bradley High School and at Walker Valley High School. And then also I want to say thank you to Cleveland State Community College, because they also give us an opportunity with the orchestra to have rehearsals there and to have our performances there. But what I want to do is invite you to a concert. Come to both or come to one if you can. And if not, I know you can come in May at our Memorial Day concert that we'll have with the community band out at the Greenway Park, which is a great opportunity, and we have a lot of people there. But coming up on Saturday, November the 19th at 7 o'clock, the orchestra will be performing at Cleveland State Community College in the auditorium there at the, I cannot never remember the name of this building, but the Johnson building. There you go. It's called Cultural Center. There we go. Johnson Cultural Center. That was what was throwing me off. But we'll be performing there on Saturday evening at 7 o'clock. No charge. It'll be donations. If somebody wants to donate, we think that's a great thing. We have no problem with that. Also on December, and it's a Christmas concert, so we're going to get things started off that way. Also on December 5th, the Cleveland Pops Community Band will be performing at Bradley Central High School in the auditorium there. That will begin at 7 o'clock as well. And again, it is free of charge. It's just if you want to donate and feel moved to donate, we'll take those donations, because we have things to do, have to buy music and do those kind of things. And sometimes it takes a little money, but not a lot. But we would love to have you there. And we, just wanted to invite you and issue that invitation to you. And I'd like to thank Commissioner Gilbert for allowing me to come up and talk for just a second. And I'll take any questions if you have any. And if not, I'll get out of your way. I know you have a lot to do.
This is a Christmas concert, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Both of those concerts are Christmas concerts.
So if y'all folks are wanting to get out, the people in the public's wanting to get out and don't have the funds to go out and do some of the stuff that you want, this is a perfect opportunity for you to take your kids to a concert. Get them involved in some of the arts that we got in Bradley County. It's going to be a good time. I'll be there.
Good deal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all.
That's all for me.
Any questions? Commissioner Winters.
I'd like to greet colleague Danny Coggin. He is a band director of band directors. Also the principal that began Walker. They did a great band at Walker Valley there. Well, he and I worked together in ninth grade, elementary. I know he was here for a purpose. I know he loves music. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you very much.
The 7th District's doing well, and the Legal and Legislative Committee will be meeting within the next couple of weeks and look at the agendas that, if you have any legal questions that you would like to have sent to that committee, I think Lori's building those now. We'll be looking at policies and procedures. We'll be looking at what you think might need to go to our legislative body, so you could be sending those to Lori, and then we'll take a look at those and then bring them to you all, look at them together. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to recognize Mr. Coggin as well. It's no small task to do what he did in 2001, and that's to start a brand-new high school. And Mr. Coggin was a great asset and an incredible leader at Walker Valley High School. And Mr. Coggin, it doesn't never fails that I run into a teacher that served under you that doesn't talk about the culture that you created there, and just what a great atmosphere that was for teachers and for kids and for that community. And for that, I say thank you. Mr. Coggin was a colleague of mine as well, a great leader for our school system, and it's a joy to see him out continuing to serve this community. I also want to say thank you to Ocoee Middle School. This last Friday, they had a tremendous veteran service, and I know several of us attended, a few veteran service on that day. It was great to be out and to see the school recognize the staff and the families of the students. It was really a neat opportunity to be out and be in that. And again, thank you to Commissioner Thompson, Chairman Cry, and Commissioner Blake, who have served and are veterans. I certainly appreciate all that they have done for our country and the veterans that are in our community. So thank you. That's all I have, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Blake.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sure you, like me, remember that day we got that DD 214. That's the discharge paper when you get out. And real quick, Mr. Chairman, continuing with our tire cleanup, this coming Saturday, the Bradley Central High girls wrestling team will be helping us clean up tires this Saturday. Hopefully the weather will cooperate. But we're back into it. We took the summer because it was too hot. So we'll start that. And hopefully our goal is to get everything as much as possible by March of 23 totally cleaned up. That's been going on for, 2 years now like that? So that's going to happen this Saturday. Other than that, that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Alford.
Chairman, thank you. I have a couple of things on the agenda. One is Second District's doing well. I also have a resolution or something that I need to put on our agenda for next week to vote on. It's believe it or not, the holidays are upon us. It's been uncommon for the commission to cancel meetings around the holidays to allow for travel and so forth and everything. So this is what I'd like to put on the agenda to vote on next week and give you time to look it over. It's the motion to cancel the November 28th work session, the December 27th work session, and the January 3rd voting session. This we kind of got with the mayor and looked at other times we've met, and this is what I'd like to recommend or put on the agenda to vote on next week.
That's great. You got all that? Great. Anything else? Well,
Also, we have Sheriff Lawson here today. I'd like to bring him forth. He's got some information, great information for us, referencing grants and so forth.
yes.
I know what he has. Mayor, on the Christmas is on a Sunday, December 25th. Is the county going to be out that Friday before and the Monday after?
Yes.
All right, I just want to make sure.
While we're on that subject, excuse me, Steve, Commissioner Thompson, what were the dates again?
November 28th, December 27th, and January 3rd. People take big cake bake December 27th.
Any other questions on that before we turn it over to the sheriff? Go ahead, Sheriff.
Go ahead, Sheriff.
I just gave you all a list. I think you provided, everybody's got a list of the grants that we have in place now and the grants that we see forthcoming. And as we move ahead, I see many more grants or opportunities that are going to be available to us. Now, I think where we're lacking at the sheriff's office is over the years is I would like to keep my hands on it to make sure the reporting's done, to make sure that we study the grants, to make sure we have somebody in place. So if you can look over the grant, let's see what we have, where we want to go, and to get as much free money that we can possibly get for the taxpayers, because I think that's the right thing to do. I think as far as schools, Dr. Cash is here, maybe more of those grants will be forthcoming. But what I'm here today for, and I've talked to Commissioner Alford about it, is to lay out a plan to have a person in place that's full-time in my office as far as taking care of the grants. I'll call it a grant facilitator. And not just the grant writer, that's not it, but the grant facilitator would take care of the grants, the reporting that needs to be done on every grant, that we stay up to date, that we stay pursuing everything we need to pursue as far as when a grant does pop up. That way I don't wake up worrying about, do we get the reporting done? Is everything being done? Cassandra can try to do it, but let me tell you, she's overloaded. So I've preached to her, we need to get you help. So here is my recommendation for a solution, is to I signed an agreement with you back when I took office to put corrections officers in place. I agreed not to take any of those people out, nor have I. So what I want to do is today we have just over 20 jobs open in corrections. I don't foresee us in the near future filling those jobs. Is to take a little of that money, a salary, and hire somebody to do the grant facilitating job. If that were to get full, if I were able to fill those jobs later on down the road, then I will come back to you. But since we have the agreement in place, I don't want to use that money unless I communicate with y'all. So what I would like to do is take at least one of those salaries and whatever Cassandra needs to pay the person to be the grant facilitator while we have all those openings. I think it makes sense. I think we can come out for the good of the taxpayers. We can come out for the good of the sheriff's office. We can ease my mind, and Cassandra knows I worry about the grants and the reporting and making sure things get done too much. And I think it would ease the burden overall, and we would make progress while we're doing that.
Any comments, questions? Commissioner Gilbert.
So what you're saying, Sheriff, is a grant writer to actually try not to miss none of the grants that's out there for us.
And a facilitator to take care of all the grants, to take care of the grants we already have in place. You gotta understand we're audited, reports are due to make sure everything's up to date. And in the meantime, I can still use that person to help Cassandra on other projects because they need to, I believe you need to have a backup in everything to make sure that we have, if something happens today, that I can carry on tomorrow. And that's where we need to be, but this person could help there too.
Thank you.
Yes.
Sheriff, you currently have a grant person, correct? That came in.
I've had one part-time.
I mean,
Sandra can, she
I mean,
answers
is she
to
still,
Cassandra. She is still there right now. My problem is, Milo, she's not local anymore. She's moved away.
right, so you're
She's trying
gonna,
to do it long distance. I will phase her out as we go.
that's what I was getting at. You're gonna
because
phase
you
her out,
will-
because
Yes,
she's paid, a commission off of the total,
Yes,
right? So how would
yes.
you, I guess, we'll talk about the details of it, but when that grant was awarded a certain amount, there was a percentage that was gonna go towards her. That was fair, but now you finished that out and they'll transition over to an employee.
And Cassandra will have to work all that out with her as far as the grants and what we would, if we would owe anything. It will be taken out of that part-time salary to make sure we settle up with her right.
Right, but
We want to be right, but she moved away.
Right.
She's moved away from here. I don't want a long distance grant facilitator. I want somebody that's in the office doing this. So is it going to take some settling up? Sure it will. What it exactly is, I don't know. Don't think it'll be that much. But I think,
But what you're wanting is an employee that would be a Bradley County employee like Cassandra or something, and not off of a commission of the total grant
Bradley
award.
County employee, that's right. It would service the captains of each division. You'd come to them. The captains would still look for grants as well, come to this individual, whoever that is, and be able to keep up with the grants, apply for the grants, to try to do it all, to see if we could keep it in-house and do it.
Commissioner Alford, is it the intent to have a resolution to accomplish this?
Yes, and then we'll follow that up or put it within the resolution that the sheriff will be with a letter of understanding that if that ever gets the full employment of that position, that will work later at that particular, we don't predict that employment with the corrections officers will ever be completely full. That's where he's going to use that money for his salary.
And I guess in the business world, we call that a sunset clause, that it dies out. Okay. Anyone else? Yes. Go ahead, speak, please.
So, I would like to say, so she was paid a commission off of the COSAP grant, but we pay her an hourly rate, other grants, and an hourly rate to do reporting on those. She was only paid a commission on one grant. That was the COSAP grant that we partnered with the Drug Coalition Prevention.
So the reason I asked that is because I'm assuming that the grants that you're going to have to report on ongoing, you're going to have a cutoff day where she's no longer responsible, and the new person will, but yet she was compensated for that grant. That's what I was getting. But as the sheriff said, you're going to have a transition piece in there. But real quick, Sheriff, that the 92, the corrections officer, the budget that we put in there for your corrections officers and your letter of agreement were there. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I forget the name of the organization. There's so many of them. The organization that oversees the jail inspection, TDOC, TCI,
Tennessee Corrections.
They look at your budget, and we put a certain amount in there, and that's why you've had the good ratings that you've had, is because we funded it properly. So hopefully this doesn't negate that in any way.
We've still got the monies that we've put in. I think I asked for 16 jobs initially, whether it's the original agreement, I have it. I think we've been able to get up about 10. We've had to put some of those on hold because we can't hire anybody. I mean, we're at a point as to, we want those jobs. I want the jail full, believe me, with employees, but it's tough right now. We are a compliment in this community because other counties are further down there are we. But it's tough right now. It's tough to get people to stay there working. And but believe me, my angle is to get the place full. It's easier to. I wouldn't be here today in front of you asking for this if the money wasn't there.
I support your efforts. I just don't want TCI coming in and saying,
TCI, they're going to have to deal with every county in the state.
I just don't want them coming saying we're taking out of the budget. That they were glad that we put the money into the budget 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I don't want them coming back and say, now you're doing a shell game.
We can only do the best we can do. We can only do, and I hope we have applicants come in that will pass the backgrounds we put to work. But I think the only thing we can do is the best we can. So I'm not going to worry about it.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Alford.
Each one of you got a list of all the grants and possibilities, so you can see real quick why the sheriff is looking for a grant facilitator, because there's a heck of a lot of money sitting out there that would help the sheriff's department. So that's why he's come forth with this, because you look at it, it takes a full grant facilitator to take care of all these different grants and things and looking for more. So it's a very important thing. I think it'd be a tremendous help to the sheriff's department that we follow up on this any way we can.
Commissioner Rogers.
Sheriff, this facilitator, she or he will be a writer too, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, yes, they will put in for the grants, and I've got other people there that will help as well. So you'll have other people contributing too. If we see a grant opportunity, we certainly need to go for it, because if it's free money and we can make it up, and even if it could help out the employees in the long end, you could supplement that money for something we paid for, would be great. And then you could free up some of that. That would make sense, in my opinion.
Commissioner Thompson.
I'm just glad you stepped these grants and we don't have to give you that money, don't we?
Excuse me, I didn't understand you, Howard.
I'm just glad you stepped that grants and we don't have to give you that money, do we?
Well, I would certainly like to have the money. But
Okay.
Howard asked me when I come in, what are you here for money, or how much money do you want? So I'm not here. I'm just here trying to, since we had a letter of agreement, transfer that money over to make sure we're on the same page.
We're honored to have the sheriff here with us. Anyone else, since we have him in our company? Commissioner Alford. That's it? That's it? All right, Commissioner Hughes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to announce an EMS meeting, or committee meeting up on the November 18th at 12 o'clock. It'll be here in the commission room. And I've had a few complaints from landfill as far as odors coming from it. I think a lot of it is weather related, but I had been asked to bring it up, so that's what I'm doing. And I have no other.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Beck.
Everything's good in First District.
That's great. Communication from the audience. Anyone in? I'm so. Oh, agenda. Oh my goodness! I'm about to. We're fixing to jump on through this. Agenda items number A: United Way Ocoee Connect Program. Commissioner Slater.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I'd like to ask Stephanie Linkus and Shauna, I can't remember your last name, to come to the podium, and they're going to share with us today. If you remember, we awarded them $100,000 of ARP funds, and I think they have used that fund, and they're just going to give us an update on that. Thank you, ladies, for being here today. And if you look on page 3 of your packet, you have some updates that they're going to discuss.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here to report on this today. And thank you for entrusting us with these funds. These families that we were able to help are folks who are working hard, trying to make ends meet, but have had a life event that could possibly have pushed them from financial stability to instability. And we are very grateful that you entrusted us with these funds that we could use through Ocoee Connect. You can look at the page that was provided. The qualifications for folks to receive funding. You obviously must have to be a resident of Bradley County, show proof of income, provide a copy of a lease agreement, provide documentation of a hardship, and those ranged from people still missing work, for not getting paid because of COVID, to car repairs, medical bills, whatever the hardship that could possibly push them over the edge into poverty. And then, of course, each person was vetted through Charity Check. Most of the nonprofits in this area work together through Charity Check to make sure that we're all coordinating those efforts and no one is taking advantage of our generosity from our generous donors and money from the county commission. If you look at the chart, we were able to serve 136 households with that $100,000, which averaged at about $735 for each household. I think when we came to you this time last year, we had estimated about $755 a household, so we were pretty close on that. And then, of course, the $100,000 total was dispersed. The chart, the bar graph, shows how the call volume to Ocoee Connect for the ARP funds ran over the past year. You can see in July and August, we really had a spike in calls, and we think that's mainly because inflation started catching up with a lot of people, and there were just a lot of hardships and people just teetering on the edge there. We have a couple of success stories at the bottom that you're welcome to read. We have obviously 136 success stories that we could share. And I know each one of these families are very grateful. And I talk to my United Way colleagues throughout the state quite often, and just want to say thank you again for your willingness to invest in affordable housing. We know there are challenges, and the fact that Commissioner Slater and the rest of you recognize that, and we're willing to invest in City Fields and the Caring Place and Habitat and United Way is a huge impact on our community. And we'll be happy to take any questions. Shauna actually administers Ocoee Connect, so I wanted her to be here with us in case you had any questions that I might not be able to answer.
Commissioner Blake.
Just real quick, when we first talked about this, one of the things I was glad to see was that you paid the rent straight to the landlord. It didn't go through the family, and then so that was a real good thing. So that way,
we paid any of the rent directly to the landlord. Obviously, we had to keep the documentation to turn in to Chuck Hammonds and his team. And we've done all of that and been reimbursed at this point.
So $735 was your average in here, and like you said, it was about but what was the maximum rent? Because it was one-time rent, right?
Yes. It was one-time rental assistance, and we were able to do a maximum of $1,000.
So you did have some $1,000.
Yeah, maximum of $1,000.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Slater, you have anything else?
I don't. Thank you, Stephanie and Shauna, for being here today.
Agenda item B, Commissioner Hughes.
Mr. Chairman, it's a resolution to rezone from I-1, which is General Industrial District, to FAR, which is Farming Agricultural Residential District, property located at Ledmi Valley Road, Southwest, and identified on tax map by 065 parcel 057-01 and parcel 057.2 and also 57.03. Those can be seen on pages 4 and 5. This did go through planning, passed unanimously.
Thank you very much. Anyone have any questions for him at this point? Okay, we'll go to agenda item C. Again, Commissioner Hughes.
Mr. Chairman, this is a resolution to rezone from R2 High Density Residential District to C2 General Commercial District, property located at 8130 Francisco Road Northwest, identified by tax map 012B Group A parcel 004.0. This can also be seen on pages 6 and 7. This also passed unanimously through the planning.
Does anyone have any questions on this? Yes, Commissioner Winters.
It is off from Georgetown, close to the county line.
No Pone Road area.
There is a lot of storage units out in that area, and this is property that actually joins up with it.
Any other questions on this particular one? Okay. Agenda item D, again, Commissioner Hughes.
Mr. Chairman, this is a resolution to rezone from FAR Forest Agricultural Residential District to C2 General Commercial District property located at 8150 Georgetown Road Northwest, identified by tax map 012B, Group A, parcel 007, and this can be seen on page 8 and 9. This is a property that was zone commercial a few years back, and then they changed it to residential, and now they're moving it back to commercial.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions? Thank you very much. And now we'll go to communication from the audience. Anyone in the audience would like to speak? Yes, please. I believe you know the routine, so.
Deborah Gleason, 4th District. And I do read this because I want to stay within the 5 minutes. At last week's commissioner meeting, there were 6 commissioners who understood the importance of the people having the opportunity to speak before a vote during the voting session. There were 8 of them who did not. For the purpose of bringing this down to the elementary level in hopes that the meaning will be grasped, I present. 1, the people are more important than government. 2, the people's voice is more important than the government's. 3, the government was created by the people for the people. 4, the people hear the proposal at the working session. They listen to the government discuss the proposal. The people ask questions about the proposal. 5, the people do their own research to understand the proposal in its entirety. 6, voting session. The people are allowed to comment on a passed proposal at the end of the vote. Not too long ago, in a galaxy far, far away, I recall the people being called derogatory names by the commissioners, being told to sit down or be physically removed. The people being unable to find a commissioner to acknowledge them in order to present the seriousness of a health issue. The presentation being botched by the PowerPoint system and sound system that didn't seem to work that night. Phone calls made to commissioners and government officials who didn't return the phone calls. Emails sent to commissioners and government officials who did not respond to the emails, time and time again. Now, some of these commissioners say that they don't ever get complaints about changing the order of the agenda. No one calls them or writes to them. Only this group of citizens, taxpayers, seem to have a problem with all of this. Now they promise us that they will call us and respond to our emails. So it seems that maybe we have had some influence. Well, you're going to find out that this group of citizens is much larger than you seem to think. Was that elementary enough for you? Thank you.
Very much. Does anyone else prefer to or care to speak? Okay. Let's see. Announcements. 11 a.m. 21 November, Building and Lands Committee. The EMS November 18th at 12 o'clock. I didn't get the date and time, Commissioner Blake, on the tire cleanup. Do you have that again? Tire cleanup.
It is decided, but on the exact time, I will get, and I don't want to tell you the wrong time, I'll get that time and get it to Lori so she can let everybody know.
Okay, those are the announcements.